The massive crystal chamber hummed with tension as representatives from 12 different worlds gathered around the circular platform. Ambassador Zethkri shifted his weight on his 4 legs and watched the heated debate with growing concern. His pale blue skin flickered with the bioluminescent patterns that showed deep worry among his people. The Vorthan had spent decades studying the species called humans, and what he had learned kept him awake during his rest cycles. Commander Vexstar slammed his scaled fist against the speaking podium, and his yellow eyes blazed with anger. The Draknari warrior stood nearly 8 feet tall, and his reptilian features showed nothing but contempt as he spoke. These humans have ignored our warnings 3 times now. They continue to spread through space like some kind of disease. They have built 17 colonies in sectors that belong to us. We cannot allow this to continue. Several other representatives nodded in agreement. The Kelhari delegate fluttered her wing membranes in a gesture of support, while the crystalline Zephyrite ambassador pulsed with red light. These species had ruled different parts of the galaxy for thousands of years, and they were not used to being challenged by newcomers. ETH single quotes. KRI rose slowly from his resting platform and activated his translation device. The machine converted his native clicks and whistles into the standard galactic language that all council members understood. Honored colleagues, I must speak against this proposed action. My people have studied these humans extensively. We have analyzed their history, their psychology, and their methods of warfare. Any attempt to invade their homeworld would not simply fail. It would be a disaster beyond anything we have ever seen. The chamber filled with dismissive sounds. Several delegates began speaking at once, and their voices created a chaos of different languages and tones. The massive Gorvik representative let out a booming laugh that shook the crystal walls, while the insectoid Zrix clicked their mandibles in what passed for amusement among their kind. Commander Vexstar's translator crackled with static as he responded. You speak of disaster, Zethkri, but these humans barely have faster than light travel. Their weapons are primitive chemical explosives and simple kinetic projectiles. Our shields can deflect their strongest nuclear weapons. Our armor can withstand impacts that would shatter their largest ships. What possible threat could they pose to our combined fleets? Zethkri activated his personal data projector, and holographic images filled the space above the council platform. The images showed scenes from human history, and each one made the Vorthan ambassador feel sick to his core. Look at their past conflicts and tell me these are primitive beings. This species has been at war with itself for their entire recorded history. They have developed weapons capable of destroying their own planet multiple times over. But more importantly, they have developed something far more dangerous than any weapon. The images shifted to show human cities being bombed during their second global war. Massive factories worked day and night to produce weapons, while civilian populations worked in conditions that would kill most galactic species. Children as young as 10 years old assembled ammunition, while their parents built aircraft and ships at impossible speeds. What you see here is their industrial capacity during wartime. When threatened with extinction, humans do not simply fight harder. They transform their entire civilization into a weapon. Every factory becomes a weapons plant. Every civilian becomes a worker or a soldier. Their production increases not by percentages, but by thousands of % within months. The Draknari commander waved a dismissive claw. Ancient history means nothing. These images are from hundreds of their years ago. Surely they have grown soft and comfortable like most advanced species do. Zethkri's bioluminescent patches flashed deep purple with frustration. You understand nothing. These patterns are not ancient history. They are ingrained behavior. When I say we have studied them, I mean we have observed their recent conflicts. Even their small regional wars show the same patterns. Total mobilization, complete dedication to victory, refusal to surrender even when facing impossible odds. More images appeared showing more recent human conflicts. Small groups of human soldiers fighting against overwhelming numbers and winning through pure determination. Cities under siege where civilian populations continued fighting even when their military forces had been defeated. Human medics treating wounded soldiers while under enemy fire rather than seeking safety. But there is something else, Zethkri continued, and his voice dropped to barely above a whisper. Something that makes them truly dangerous. They do not fight just to win. They fight to ensure their enemies can never threaten them again. Every species on their homeworld that ever posed a serious threat to human survival is now extinct. Not defeated, not conquered, extinct. The chamber grew quiet as the implications sank in. The massive Gorvak delegate shifted uncomfortably while the Kalhari representative folded her wings tightly against her body in a defensive posture. Commander. Vexstar tried to maintain his aggressive stance, but doubt crept into his voice. Surely you exaggerate. No species completely destroys its enemies. There are always survivors. Always some form of coexistence. Not with humans, Zethkri replied sadly. They call it total war. When they decide an enemy must be eliminated. They do not stop until that enemy no longer exists. And they have practiced this concept against their own species for millennia. What do you think they will do to alien invaders who threaten their children? The holographic display changed to show more recent images. Human space colonies growing at an incredible rate. Mining operations that stripped entire asteroids bare in months rather than years. Construction projects that would take other species. Decades completed by humans in a single season. Look at their expansion rate, Zethkri said. In just 50 years, since achieving faster-than-light travel, they have established more colonies than most species build in centuries. They do not expand slowly and carefully like we do. They expand like a flood, consuming everything in their path. The council chamber remained silent as each delegate absorbed what they were seeing. Finally, the elderly Silurian representative spoke in her species' musical tones. If what you say is true, Ambassador Zethkri, then perhaps we should negotiate rather than attack. Negotiate what? Commander Vexstar snapped. They ignore our territorial claims. They take resources we have marked as ours. They refuse to acknowledge our authority. What is there to negotiate? Zethkri's patches flashed bright yellow with urgency. We negotiate boundaries. We offer them systems that we do not actively use. We treat them as equals rather than primitives to be conquered. Because if we attack them and fail, they will not be content to simply defend themselves. They will come. For us, all of us. Meanwhile, in a secure facility, buried deep beneath the surface of Earth's moon, Captain Jake Morrison stared at an encrypted message that had appeared on his communication terminal without any trace of its origin. The message was simple, but its implications made his blood run cold. They are coming. Prepare your defenses. A friend among the stars. Dr. Lisa Yang looked up from her workstation, where she had been analyzing the strange transmission. Jake. This signal used encryption methods we have never seen before. The mathematical principles are completely alien, but somehow our computers can decode it. Whoever sent this has technology far beyond ours. Captain Morrison ran his hand through his gray hair and felt the weight of command settling on his shoulders. How long do we have? Unknown, Dr. Yang replied. But the transmission originated from somewhere beyond our solar system. If they are coming with faster-than-light ships, we could have days, or we could have months. The captain activated the emergency communication system that connected him directly to Earth's military commanders and political leaders. This is Morrison at Luna Command. We have a code block situation. Unknown alien contact with possible hostile intent. Begin immediate implementation of Defense Protocol 7. Across Earth and its colonies, warning signals began to flash. Military personnel reported to their stations, while civilian populations received carefully worded announcements about increased readiness exercises. Nobody wanted to cause panic, but everyone in authority understood that humanity might be about to face its greatest challenge. In his private quarters, Captain Narration opened a secure file that contained Earth's complete defensive capabilities. The numbers looked pathetic compared to what an advanced alien civilization might possess. A few dozen patrol ships, several orbital weapons platforms, various defensive satellites, and early warning systems. Against an enemy with technology centuries ahead of human development, these forces would last minutes at best. But Jake Morrison had studied military history, and he knew that superior technology did not always guarantee victory. He thought about ancient battles where smaller forces had defeated larger ones through superior tactics, determination, and sheer refusal to give up. Humanity had always found ways to win against impossible odds, and this time would be no different. Began composing messages to Earth's top military leaders and scientists. If aliens were coming to threaten humanity, they would discover something that apparently their intelligence had missed. Humans had never learned how to surrender, and they were about to get a very painful lesson in what that meant. 3 months had passed since the heated debate in the Galactic Council chambers, and Commander Vextar had convinced 5 other species to join his war against the humans. The Draknari coalition now commanded a fleet of 200 warships from 6 different worlds, and their combined firepower could crack planets in half. Admiral Korthik stood on the bridge of his flagship and watched the swirling colors of hyperspace through the main viewing portal. The veteran warrior had conquered dozens of worlds during his long career, and this mission felt like just another routine planetary subjugation. The fleet consisted of massive dreadnoughts that stretched for miles through space, and smaller cruisers that could still dwarf any human vessel. Each ship carried weapons that could melt continents and shields that had never been penetrated by primitive technology. The alien warriors aboard these vessels had fought battles across the galaxy and won victories against enemies far more advanced than the humans could ever hope to be. Admiral Korthik reviewed the intelligence reports about human military capabilities and found them laughably weak. Earth possessed maybe 40 combat vessels, and most of those were little more than patrol boats with basic weapons. Their orbital defense platforms could launch nuclear missiles, but those would bounce harmlessly off alien shields. The humans had built some defensive satellites around their homeworld, but nothing that could threaten a proper military fleet. Lieutenant Commander Alex Turner sat in the monitoring station near Pluto and watched his sensor screens with growing alarm. The massive energy signatures approaching the solar system were unlike anything in Earth's databases, and their sheer number made his hands shake as he counted them. 197 distinct contacts, all moving faster than light, and all heading directly toward Earth. Alex activated the emergency communication system that would alert every human military installation in the solar system. This is Pluto Station calling all units. We have massive alien fleet inbound. Estimated 200 vessels of unknown configuration. All ships report to battle stations immediately. The message reached Captain Jake Morrison at Luna Command. Within seconds, and he felt his stomach drop as the numbers sank in. 200 ships against Earth's tiny defense fleet meant this would not be a battle, but a massacre. Jake activated the direct line to President Danny Carter and delivered the news that every human leader had been dreading. President Carter stood before the emergency session of the United Nations and looked out at the faces of representatives from every nation on Earth. These men and women had spent their careers dealing with human conflicts and economic problems, but now they faced something beyond their experience. An alien fleet was approaching with enough firepower to destroy their entire civilization. My fellow humans, President Carter began, and his voice carried clearly through the vast assembly hall. "We face an enemy unlike any in our history. Ships from other worlds are coming to our solar system, and their intentions appear hostile. We have perhaps days before they arrive, and we must use that time to prepare our defenses." The president paused and looked directly into the cameras that were broadcasting his words to every human settlement in space. "But we are not the same species that hid in caves from predators millions of years ago. We are not the same people who gave up when faced with impossible odds throughout our history. We are human, and we have never learned how to surrender." Dr. Lisa Yang worked frantically in her laboratory beneath the lunar surface and tried to make sense of the alien technology she had detected in the warning message. The mathematical principles were so advanced that human computers could barely process them, but she had found patterns that might be exploited. Working alongside physicist Dr. Ben Rodriguez and engineer Maria Santos, she began developing weapons that could disrupt alien shield systems. The energy signatures suggest their shields operate on harmonic frequencies. Dr. Yang explained to her team as they gathered around holographic displays showing alien ship designs. "If we can generate the right counter frequency, we might be able to collapse their protective barriers." Dr. Rodriguez ran calculations through the most powerful computers available to humanity and shook his head in frustration. "Even if we can disrupt their shields, their armor is probably made from materials we have never seen before. Our best weapons might not even scratch their hull plating." Maria Santos looked up from her engineering station, where she had been designing modifications to Earth's existing missile systems. "We do not need to destroy their ships, Ben. We just need to hurt them badly enough that they decide we are not worth the cost." Admiral Korthik brought his fleet out of hyperspace at the edge of the solar system and immediately began scanning for human defenses. What he found confirmed everything the intelligence reports had predicted: a handful of small ships patrolling near the outer planets, some orbital platforms around the third planet that the humans called Earth, various communication satellites and monitoring stations scattered throughout the system. The alien admiral opened a communication channel and broadcast his message in perfect human English. His translators had studied human languages for months, and they were confident that the message would be understood clearly. "Primitive humans of the planet Earth, you will cease all expansion beyond your home system immediately. You will submit to the authority of the Galactic Council and accept supervised development for the next 1,000 years. You have one of your hours to respond with your unconditional surrender." Captain Jake Morrison received the alien ultimatum at Luna Command and felt anger burning in his chest like molten metal. These aliens had come to humanity's home system and demanded surrender without even attempting diplomatic contact. They treated humans like children who needed to be punished for misbehaving. Jake activated the communication system that would broadcast Earth's response to the alien fleet and made sure his voice was calm and steady. "Unknown alien vessels, this is Admiral Jake Morrison of the Soul Defense Force. You have entered human space without permission and issued threats against Earth and her colonies. You have 30 minutes to reverse course and leave our system immediately, or we will consider your presence an act of war." The response from the alien fleet came in the form of harsh laughter that was transmitted across all frequencies. Admiral Korthak could not believe the audacity of these primitive creatures. They were actually threatening him with their pathetic little ships and outdated weapons. Perhaps a demonstration of superior firepower would convince them to be more reasonable. Alien Admiral selected a target that would send the right message without completely destroying human civilization. Europa was one of Jupiter's moons, and humans had built a large mining station there with about 50,000 workers. The facility had minimal defenses and would be easy to destroy without much effort. "Prepare the main batteries," Admiral Kothi ordered his weapons officers. Target the human facility on the fourth planet's second moon. One full bombardment should be sufficient to demonstrate our capabilities. The alien dreadnought's weapons charged with energy that could melt asteroids and fired a concentrated beam. At the Europa mining station, the human shields lasted exactly 3 seconds before collapsing, and the station itself was reduced to glowing debris within minutes. 50,000 human lives ended in an instant, and their deaths were broadcast across the solar system as a warning to Earth. Korthik opened another communication channel and spoke directly to the human leadership. You have seen what happens to those who defy the Galactic Council. Surrender immediately, and no more of your people need to die. Continue your resistance, and we will destroy every human settlement in this system. The response from Earth came not from their military commanders, but from Admiral Morrison himself, and his voice carried a tone that made even veteran Draknari warriors feel uncomfortable. The human's words were spoken calmly, but there was something underneath that sounded like barely controlled rage. Alien ships, you have just murdered 50,000 civilians, including women and children. There will be no surrender. There will be no negotiation. There will be only war, and you will learn why no enemy of humanity has ever been forgiven for attacking our people. On the Galactic Council Station, Ambassador Zethkri received the first reports from Admiral Korthik's fleet and felt his worst. Fears being confirmed. The aliens had attacked a civilian target and killed innocent humans. Now they would discover what humanity was really capable when fighting for survival. Zethkri immediately sent another coded transmission toward Earth, using technology that his people had developed in secret. They do not understand what they have awakened. Complete tactical data on their fleet compositions and weapon systems is being transmitted now. Use this information wisely. Make them pay for what they have done. The Vorthan ambassador knew that. He was committing treason against the Galactic Council, but he also knew that his own people would need human friendship in the years to come. The galaxy was about to change forever, and those who sided with humanity would survive while those who opposed them would face extinction. Admiral Morrison received the alien tactical data and immediately distributed it to every human military unit in the solar system. The alien fleet hung in space like a cloud of death, and Admiral Korthik felt satisfied with his demonstration of power. The destruction of the human mining station had been swift and complete, and surely now these primitive creatures would see reason. He opened another communication channel to Earth and prepared to receive their surrender. Instead, what came back made him question whether these humans understood the situation at all. Admiral Jake Morrison's voice came through the speakers on the alien flagship, and his tone was colder than the vacuum of space itself. You want to know what happens when you murder human civilians. You are about to find out. All human vessels prepare for combat operations. This is not a drill. Repeat, this is not a drill. Admiral Korthik turned to his tactical officer and saw confusion on the reptilian face. Are they actually planning to attack us with those pathetic ships? Do they not understand that we could destroy their entire fleet in minutes? Commander Vexstar stood beside the Admiral and studied the human fleet positions on the main display screen. The humans had maybe 40 combat vessels scattered throughout their solar system, and most of those were barely larger than escape pods. Perhaps they planned to ram us. Some primitive species resort to suicide attacks when facing superior enemies. But the human response was far more complex than either alien commander could imagine. Admiral Morrison had spent the 3 months since the first warning preparing for exactly this scenario, and Earth's military had been working around the clock to implement strategies that would surprise their enemies. Colonel Amy Foster commanded a squadron of modified mining vessels that had been secretly converted into kinetic weapons. Her ships looked like ordinary cargo haulers, but their holds were now filled with dense metal cores, and their engines had been upgraded to push them to incredible speeds. Amy checked her instruments and confirmed that her targeting systems had locked on to the largest alien dreadnought. All mining vessels, this is Colonel Foster. Begin acceleration sequence. Target the alien flagship and prepare for ramming speed. May God have mercy on our souls, because we are about to show these aliens what humans do to murderers. The modified mining ships began accelerating toward the alien fleet, and their crude engines pushed them faster and faster until they were moving at nearly 10% of light speed. Admiral Korthik watched the approaching vessels on his tactical display and laughed at what he assumed was a desperate suicide attack. Raise shields and prepare point defense systems, the alien admiral ordered. These humans think they can damage us with simple ramming attacks. Our barriers will deflect their ships like pebbles bouncing off armor. But the alien shields had been designed to stop energy weapons and exotic particles, not simple mass moving at relativistic speeds. When Colonel Foster's mining ship struck the alien flagship, the impact released energy equivalent to several nuclear weapons. The alien shields held for exactly 1 second before collapsing, and the mining vessel punched through the dreadnought's hull like a bullet through paper. The alien flagship shuddered, and alarms began screaming throughout its corridors as atmosphere rushed out through the massive hole in its side. Admiral Korthik felt his ship listing to one side and realized that these primitive humans had just crippled his most powerful vessel with what amounted to a flying rock. "Damage report," the admiral shouted as his bridge crew struggled to regain control of their systems. "Hull breach on decks 40 through 60. We have lost main power to the forward weapons array. Life support is failing in 17 sections. Estimated repair time is 6 hours minimum." His engineering officer reported that before Admiral Korthik could respond. Another mining vessel struck one of his cruisers, and the alien ship simply broke apart under the impact. Pieces of hull plating and internal components scattered through space, while the few survivors tried to reach escape pods. A third mining ship targeted another cruiser and achieved similar results. Dr. Ben Rodriguez watched the battle from his command center on Earth and felt grim satisfaction as his modified jamming system began affecting alien communications. The satellites that normally carried television and internet signals across Earth had been reprogrammed. BROEDC ST interference patterns that disrupted the alien fleet's coordination systems. "Jamming is effective," Dr. Rodriguez reported to Admiral Morrison. "The alien ships are having trouble communicating with each other. Their formation is already beginning to break apart." The alien fleet commanders found themselves fighting blind as their communication networks failed one by one. Ships that had operated as coordinated units for decades were suddenly isolated and unable to work together. Admiral Korthik tried to send orders to his scattered vessels, but his messages were lost in the chaos of human electronic warfare. Meanwhile, Chief Engineer Rick Stone was implementing the most ambitious part of Earth's defense plan from a secret facility buried deep beneath the Rocky Mountains. Project Prometheus was not a weapon, but a manufacturing system that could convert civilian infrastructure into military production in a matter of hours. Rick watched his displays as factories across Earth began retooling their assembly lines. Automobile plants stopped making cars and started producing combat drones. Electronics manufacturers switched from consumer goods to guided missile components. Even small workshops and home 3D printers received new programming that allowed them to create parts for improvised weapons. "Production increase is exceeding all projections," Rick reported to the military command center. "We are now manufacturing weapons at 3,000% of normal capacity. Every factory on Earth is now part of our war effort." The results became apparent within hours as swarms of newly built combat drones began launching from Earth's surface. These were not sophisticated military vehicles, but simple machines designed for one purpose: to overwhelm alien defenses through sheer numbers. Each drone carried enough explosives to damage an alien ship, and there were thousands of them rising from every continent on Earth. Admiral Korthik watched in disbelief as wave after wave of human attack drones approached his fleet. His point defense systems began firing automatically, but there were simply too many targets to engage effectively. For every drone the aliens destroyed, two more took its place, and the swarm continued growing larger. "Where are they getting so many ships?" Commander Vextar demanded as he watched the tactical display fill with red dots representing human forces. "Our intelligence said they had less than 50 combat vessels total." "They are not ships," the tactical officer replied after analyzing the approaching swarm. "They appear to be mass-produced drones with minimal armor and simple weapons. But there are thousands of them, and our defenses cannot stop them all." The first wave of drones reached the alien fleet and began exploding against ship hulls in brilliant flashes of light. Individual drones could not penetrate alien armor, but hundreds of them detonating simultaneously began to cause significant damage. Hull plating buckled under repeated impacts, and several alien vessels reported system failures. Captain Susan Lee commanded a squadron of converted cargo haulers that had been modified for boarding operations. Her ships were not designed for combat, but they carried teams of human Marines who had volunteered for what everyone knew was a suicide mission. Susan studied the tactical data that Ambassador Zethgri had transmitted and identified weaknesses in alien ship designs. "All boarding teams, this is Captain Lay. We are going to capture that damaged cruiser. Remember that these aliens murdered 50,000 of our people, including children. Show them no mercy, because they showed none to us." The human boarding ships accelerated toward a Draknari cruiser that had been damaged by drone attacks and was struggling to maintain its position. The alien crew tried to destroy the approaching vessels, but their weapons were offline, and they could only watch helplessly as humans attached docking tubes to their hull. Susan Lee led the first boarding party through the airlock and into the alien ship's corridors. The atmosphere was wrong for human lungs, and the gravity was too heavy, but her Marines had trained for exactly these conditions. They moved quickly through the ship and eliminated any alien crew members who tried to resist. Alien defenders were larger and stronger than humans, but they had never faced enemies who fought with such desperate fury. Human Marines continued attacking, even when wounded, and they seemed to feel no fear of death. Within an hour, the entire alien cruiser was under human control, and its crew was either dead or captured. Admiral Korthak realized that his carefully planned invasion was turning into a disaster. His fleet had been scattered by human jamming systems. His ships were being overwhelmed by swarms of improvised weapons. Some of his vessels had been captured by boarding parties using converted civilian ships. These primitive humans were fighting with a creativity and determination that defied everything he knew about warfare. "Signal the fleet to withdraw to the outer system," Admiral Korthik ordered. "We need time to regroup and develop new tactics." But the human attacks continued, even as the alien ships tried to retreat. More mining vessels accelerated to ramming speed and targeted the fleeing aliens. Drone swarms followed the retreating fleet and continued their relentless assault. 6 weeks had passed since the alien fleet's arrival, and Admiral Korthik stared at the battle reports with growing horror. His once mighty armada of 200 ships had been reduced to less than 80 functional vessels, and those remaining were damaged and demoralized. The humans had not simply defended their homeworld, but had gone on the offensive in ways that defied every military doctrine the galaxy had ever known. The alien admiral stood in his damaged command center and tried to understand how everything had gone so terribly wrong. His engineers had managed to repair the worst damage from the kinetic ramming, attack, but the ship's systems were still operating at only 60% efficiency. Around him, his bridge crew worked frantically to coordinate what remained of their ray fleet while human attacks continued without pause. Status report, Admiral Korthik demanded from his tactical officer, who was monitoring the latest wave of human assaults. The humans have launched another asteroid bombardment toward our position near Saturn. Estimated impact in 4 hours. They have also deployed mining explosives throughout the asteroid belt that are set to detonate when our ships approach. Our patrol vessels report constant harassment by human drone swarms, and 3 more cruisers have been boarded by human forces. Admiral Korthik felt his confidence crumbling as he realized that the humans were not fighting like any enemy he had ever faced. Instead of trying to defend fixed positions, they seemed to be everywhere at once. Their attacks came from directions that should have been impossible, and they used weapons that no civilized species would ever consider employing. Lieutenant Commander Alex Turner had been promoted to full commander after his early warning had saved Earth's defense fleet from complete surprise. Now he coordinated attacks from a mobile command ship that stayed hidden among the gas giant's moons. His latest plan involved using Jupiter's gravity well to accelerate massive chunks of ice and rock to incredible speeds. Asteroid bombardment is on target, Commander Turner reported to Admiral Morrison. The aliens are trying to maintain position near Saturn, but our projectiles will force them to move again. Each time they relocate, we hit them with more drone attacks and boarding parties. The human strategy was simple, but brutally effective. They would force the alien fleet to move by threatening them with kinetic bombardments, then attack the moving ships with swarms of cheap disposable weapons. The aliens could not stay still because stationary targets were easy to hit with asteroids. They could not move quickly because their formations became scattered and vulnerable to boarding attacks. Dr. Lisa Yang had made another breakthrough in her analysis of alien technology and was now able to disrupt not just their shields, but their weapon systems as well. Working from her laboratory on the lunar surface, she had developed a new type of electromagnetic pulse that could overload alien electronics without affecting human equipment. The frequency patterns are becoming clear, Dr. Yang explained to her research team as they prepared another batch of EMP weapons. Alien technology is more advanced than ours, but it also operates on very specific wavelength bands. We can target those frequencies and cause cascading system failures throughout their ships. The new EMP weapons were loaded onto fast attack ships that could approach alien vessels under cover of drone swarms. When the weapons detonated, they would leave alien ships blind and helpless for several minutes, while human boarding parties moved in for the kill. The tactic had already resulted in the capture of 12 alien vessels and the destruction of twice that. Captain Susan Lee stood on the bridge of her newest prize, a captured alien battlecruiser that she had renamed the Human Vengeance. Her engineering teams had spent weeks learning to operate alien systems, and now the ship was fully under human control. The irony of using alien weapons against their former owners was not lost on anyone aboard the vessel. Weapons status report. Captain Lee ordered as her ship approached another group of alien vessels that were trying to escape the solar system. All alien weapon systems are operational and fully charged, Captain. Our human crew has mastered the firing controls, and we are ready for combat. The aliens will never expect to be attacked by one of their own ships. The Human Vengeance opened fire on the fleeing alien vessels, and its advanced weapons tore through their shields like they were made of paper. The attacking ship's alien identification codes confused the defenders for precious seconds, and by the time they realized what was happening, 2 of their cruisers had been completely destroyed. Colonel Amy Foster had expanded her kinetic weapon program, and now commanded a fleet of modified asteroids that could be guided like massive missiles. Her latest creation was a chunk of iron and nickel the size of a city block, that had been fitted with simple rocket engines and a basic guidance system. "Target acquired," Colonel Foster announced as her asteroid weapon locked onto an alien dreadnought that was trying to rally the scattered fleet. "Impact in 37 minutes. All human ships clear the area immediately." The alien defenders tried to destroy the approaching asteroid with their remaining weapons, but the massive rock absorbed their energy beams without slowing down. When it finally struck the dreadnought, the impact created a flash of light visible from Earth and left nothing but expanding debris where the alien ship had been. Chief Engineer Rick Stone watched his production reports with satisfaction as Earth's converted. Industries continued to exceed all expectations, every major city on the planet now contained weapons factories, and even small towns were contributing to the war effort. The rate of drone production had increased to over 10,000 units per day, and each new batch incorporated improvements learned from previous battles. "Manufacturing efficiency is still climbing," Rick reported to the War Council. "We are now producing combat drones faster than we can launch them. Stockpiles are building up at every spaceport on Earth, and the moon colonies are requesting additional production facilities." The sheer scale of human industrial mobilization was something the galaxy had never seen before. Within weeks, Earth had transformed from a peaceful civilization into a war machine that could produce weapons at rates that seemed impossible. Every human settlement contributed to the effort, and civilian volunteers worked around the clock to support their military forces. Admiral Morrison received regular updates from all his commanders and felt a grim pride in what humanity had accomplished. The alien fleet that had arrived expecting easy conquest was now fleeing in panic, while human forces pursued them relentlessly. But the Admiral knew that this was only the beginning, and that the real test would come when more alien fleets arrived. Signal. All commands. Admiral Morrison ordered his communications officer, "Begin Phase 2 operations. It is time to take this war beyond our solar system." A next phase of human strategy involved following the retreating aliens back to their bases and destroying any reinforcements before they could reach Earth. Scout ships had been tracking alien movements and had identified several staging areas where more enemy fleets were assembling. Those bases would be humanity's next targets. Captain Danny Wright commanded one of the new deep space strike forces that had been equipped with captured alien faster-than-light drives. His mission was to attack alien supply lines and prevent reinforcements from reaching the invasion fleet. The irony of using alien technology to attack aliens was not lost on him. "Jump coordinates confirmed," Captain Wright announced to his strike force. "We are going to hit their logistics base in the Alpha Centauri system. Remember that these aliens started this war by murdering civilians. We are going to finish it by showing them that humans can fight anywhere in the galaxy." The human strike force disappeared into hyperspace and emerged near an alien supply depot that had been operating for decades. The base defenders were caught completely off guard by the sudden appearance of human ships using alien technology. Before they could mount an effective defense, the entire facility was destroyed, and its ships were either captured or eliminated. Ambassador Isikri watched the battle reports from his office on the Galactic Council station and felt a mixture of horror and admiration for what the humans were accomplishing. His warnings had been ignored, and now half the galaxy was about to learn why that had been a terrible mistake. The Vorthan ambassador activated his secret communication channel and sent another message toward Earth. "The Council is preparing to send more fleets against you. 5 more species have joined the coalition, and they are assembling over 400 ships. But they still do not understand what they are facing. Use the tactical data I am transmitting to prepare your defenses." Admiral Korthik made the decision that would haunt him for the rest of his life. Unable to accept defeat at the hands of primitive humans, he ordered his remaining ships to target Earth cities directly. If he could not conquer humanity, he would at least make them pay a terrible price for their resistance. All ships target the human population centers, Admiral Korthik commanded. We will show these primitives the cost of defying the Galactic Council. The alien bombardment began with energy beams that could melt mountains, striking major cities on Earth. Millions of humans died in the first few minutes as alien weapons turned entire metropolitan areas into pools of molten glass. 1 year had passed since Admiral Korthik's fleet had first entered the Sol system, and the galaxy would never be the same again. The once mighty invasion force had been completely destroyed, and their defeat had sent shockwaves through every civilized world. Ambassador Zethkri stood before the emergency session of the Galactic Council and looked out at faces filled with fear and confusion. The great chamber that had once echoed with confident discussions of human conquest now felt like a tomb. Half the species that had supported the invasion were no longer represented because their homeworlds had been attacked by human forces. The other half were desperately trying to negotiate peace treaties before the same fate befell them. Honored colleagues, Ambassador Zethkri began, and his voice carried clearly through the silent chamber. I warned you that attacking humanity would be catastrophic. You chose not to listen, and now you face the consequences of that decision. The holographic displays around the chamber showed the current state of human expansion, and the images were terrifying to species that had ruled the galaxy for millennia. Red markers indicated human colonies that now existed in over 300 star systems. Blue markers showed alien worlds that had been attacked by human forces. Green markers represented species that had already surrendered to human demands. Commander Vextar was not present to defend his actions because the Draknari homeworld had been the first target of human retaliation. The proud warrior species that had demanded Earth's conquest had been reduced to scattered refugee fleets begging for sanctuary from other worlds. Their military might had been broken, and their civilization had collapsed within months of provoking humanity's wrath. Admiral Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the ESS Defiance and watched the construction of humanity's newest deep space base. The massive facility was being built in what had once been Draknari space and would serve as a forward command post for future human operations. The ship itself was a testament to how quickly human technology had advanced by studying captured alien equipment. Construction progress report. Admiral Morrison requested from his engineering officer, who was monitoring the base assembly. All primary systems are online, Admiral. The facility can now support a full battle fleet and serve as a manufacturing center for new ships. We are also establishing mining operations on 12 planets in this system. Human expansion continues ahead of schedule. The Defiance was not built for exploration or peaceful contact, but for one purpose only: to ensure that no alien species ever again made the mistake of threatening humanity. The ship carried weapons that could destroy planets and shields that had been tested against the most advanced alien technology. It was a symbol of humanity's transformation from a defensive species to the galaxy's newest apex predator. Dr. Lisa Yang had been promoted to head of the new Department of Alien Technology, and her research had revolutionized human capabilities in just 12 months. Working from laboratories on dozens of different worlds, she had reverse-engineered alien faster-than-light drives, quantum computers, and energy weapons that surpassed anything the galaxy had ever seen. The latest improvements to our shield technology are ready for fleet deployment, Dr. Yang reported during the weekly technology briefing. We can now deflect energy weapons that would have destroyed Earth's best ships a year ago. Our manufacturing processes have also been improved, and we can now build starships faster than most species can build ground vehicles. The transformation of human industry from civilian production to military dominance had shocked even Earth's own leaders. Entire planets were now dedicated to weapons manufacturing, while automated systems produced starships by the thousands. The species that had once struggled to maintain 40 patrol boats now commanded fleets that numbered in the tens of thousands. President Danny Carter addressed the United Nations Assembly, and his words were broadcast to every human settlement across the galaxy. Behind him stood flags representing not just Earth's nations, but the colonies that humanity had established on hundreds of different worlds. My fellow humans, 1 year ago, we faced extinction at the hands of alien invaders. Today, we stand as the dominant military power in this galaxy. We have proven that humanity will not bow to threats, and we will not forgive those who attack our people. But we must also remember that with great power comes great responsibility. The President's words carried weight because humanity now controlled enough firepower to destroy entire civilizations. The question facing human leadership was not whether they could conquer the galaxy, but whether they should. Many alien species were already offering complete surrender in exchange for mercy. Captain Susan Lee commanded the human task force that was negotiating with the remnants of the Galactic Council. Her flagship was the former alien dreadnought that had been renamed. Human justice and its presence served as a constant reminder of what happened to those who threatened Earth. The terms are simple, Captain Lee explained to the assembled alien delegates. Complete withdrawal from all systems within 50 light years of Earth. Full compensation for the destruction of Europa and the civilian casualties from your bombardment of our cities. Technology transfers to ensure that humanity can defend against future threats. And formal recognition of human sovereignty over any worlds we choose to colonize. The alien delegates had no choice but to accept these demands because the alternative was the complete destruction of their civilizations. Humanity had proven that they possessed both the capability and the willingness to wage wars of extermination against species that threatened them. Ambassador Zethkri met privately with Captain Lai after the formal negotiations had concluded. The Vorthan diplomat had risked everything to help humanity during the war, and now he hoped that friendship would be remembered when the final peace terms were decided. Your people have exceeded every prediction I made about their capabilities, Ambassador Zethkri admitted, but they have also shown mercy to those who helped them. I hope that this will be remembered when humanity decides the fate of my species. Captain Lee studied the alien diplomat who had provided crucial intelligence during humanity's darkest hour. Ambassador, your warnings saved countless human lives, and your assistance helped us win this war. The Vorthan people will always be considered friends of humanity. You have nothing to fear from us. Chief Engineer Rick Stone supervised the construction of humanity's newest industrial complex on a planet that had once belonged to the Kalahari species. The bird-like aliens had surrendered immediately when human fleets appeared in their space, and had offered to share their advanced materials technology in exchange for being allowed to maintain their independence. Production estimates for the new facility, Rick announced during the daily briefing. We will be able to manufacture 100 starships per month once all assembly lines are operational. Combined with our other facilities, humanity will soon possess the largest fleet in galactic history. The scale of human industrial expansion was unprecedented, and it showed no signs of slowing down. Every month brought new colonies, new manufacturing centers, and new technological breakthroughs. The species that had barely achieved faster than light travel 2 years earlier was now reshaping the galaxy according to their own vision. Dr. Ben Rodriguez had been placed in charge of developing humanity's new early warning systems, and his networks now monitored every star system within 200 light years of Earth. Never again would an alien fleet be able to approach human space without being detected long before they arrived. Sensor grid deployment is complete, Dr. Rodriguez reported. We now have real-time monitoring of all shipping movements within our sphere of influence. Any hostile fleet would be detected weeks before reaching human territory, and we would have ample time to prepare our defenses. The galaxy had learned a lesson that would be passed down through generations of alien historians. Humanity did not simply survive threats to their existence, but evolved beyond them and ensured that such threats could never arise again. The species that had attacked Earth expecting easy conquest had instead created their own worst nightmare. Admiral Morrison received a final report from the task force that had been hunting down the last remnants of Admiral Korthic's fleet. Alien Commander had been captured along with his surviving officers, and they now awaited trial for war crimes. Their fate would serve as a warning to any future enemies of humanity. The last enemy ships had been destroyed or captured, Admiral. The Sol system is now completely secure, and our outer colonies report no hostile activity. The invasion has been defeated, and the threat to humanity has been eliminated. But Admiral Morrison knew that this victory was only the beginning. Humanity had tasted the power that came from controlling advanced technology and commanding vast fleets. The galaxy was vast and full of resources that could support human expansion for thousands of years. The question was no longer whether humanity would become a galactic power, but how far their influence would extend. The story concluded with humanity's emergence as the dominant force in the galaxy, but also with the recognition that power brought responsibility. The species that had once huddled on a single planet now controlled hundreds of worlds and possessed the technology to travel between the stars at will.